Hi everybody, welcome to the channel, Wild Music here. On this channel you'll see reactions from musicians from right across the world. No country is out of bounds. Some of this music is from vocalists and bands, and other pieces of music are just instrumental tracks that are just masterpieces. This time we're travelling back in time to a song from yesteryear. And this is from the amazing artist who died far too young, Otis Redding. Sitting on the Dock of the Bay is the song. You might know it. He was born in 1941 and died at only 26 in 1967. And he was an American musician, a singer, songwriter, and record producer. He was inspired by gospel music, and his style has influenced many artists since, including many soul artists in the 1960s. His debut album was Pain in My Heart, 1964. And then in 1967, he was flying to the next gig with some other musicians and some other people and part of his entourage. And all but one person, including the pilot, died in that plane crash, unfortunately. However, Otis Redding left an amazing legacy, and I'm sure every musician around and almost every non-musician would know of at least this song, Dock of the Bay, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding. It's iconic. This song was written by Otis and his guitarist Steve Cropper, and was recorded by Otis actually twice in 1967, including a recording that was just a few days before the plane crash occurred. And it was his first posthumous #1 hit. Otis Redding was inspired by the Beatles album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And he then wrote this song and was trying to go in a different direction musically, but it really didn't go down very well with his record label at the time. But, you know, in hindsight, we can see how much of a hit it was, and still is. And it's interesting, on this recording, which is the studio version, on keyboards are Booker T and Isaac Hayes. I love listening to Isaac Hayes' music, and Booker T is an amazing musician too. So that's just an interesting fact. So anyway, let's get into it and hear Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Otis Redding. And this is by request from one of my channel members.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay, 'cause I've had nothing to live for, and look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Look like nothing's gonna change, everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Listen, sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone. Listen, 2,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. Now I'm just gonna sit at the dock of a bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm sitting on the dock of a bay, wasting time.
Oh, what a classic. Oh, that's a brilliant song, and what a brilliant performance from Otis Redding there. Oh, his voice was amazing. It was so smooth, yet at times he was able to bring in that raspiness, which just added to the beautiful timbre that he had in his voice. I suppose you would call it a textural variation. But anyway, let's go back to the start. So it's quite stripped back, quite basic. The backing, it's not got heaps of instruments in it, but for much of the song, it's just the bass and the drums backing behind him. There's some other instruments come in, and obviously the keyboard parts too. But it's just beautiful. We start with the bass intro. It's the sort of riff that if you hear it, you know exactly the song that's coming. It's one of those iconic riffs. You know, oh, that's Dock of the Bay. As soon as you hear that bass line. Brilliant. And about 10 seconds in, Otis Redding's beautiful, smooth and melodic vocals enter. So let's listen out for that.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes.
See, at the end of some of his phrases, he has these little ornaments or little runs. They're only 2 or 3 notes or 3 or 4 notes, and they're just so effective, aren't they? And also the water sound, the ocean sound in the beginning is so beautiful too. I'll go back to the start again and play it right from there.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh.
Yes, and you can hear like watching the time. He has some really interesting intonation where he accents certain words, and it's part of telling the story. Once again, projecting the message behind the song to the listener. That's interesting and really well done. So watching the time, he accents that instead of where perhaps an instrumental piece, it might be watching the tide. Tide might be slightly accented, you know, according to where it comes in the bar. But he accents here, it's a bit of syncopation, I guess. Watching the tide. It's brilliant. And it's so subtle.
Watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
Right.
I left my home in Georgia.
Yes, interesting here. Home. He sort of approaches the H in home very carefully. It's carefully nuanced, and I love the way he does that. I left my home in Georgia. And he has a beautiful ornament on Georgia as well. Let's go back. Here's some of that.
I left my home in Georgia,
Yeah.
headed for the Frisco.
Play it again.
My home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay.
And that's, excuse me, quite interesting too. The way Frisco Bay, he cuts Bay off, doesn't make it into a long note or add any vibrato. It's a nice touch. He's telling the story. It's there. Bay. Frisco Bay. That's in my Aussie accent. Frisco Bay. You sing it Frisco Bay. But he just chops it off beautifully. I love the way he nuances that.
I'm home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay.
Nice.
I've had nothing to live for, and look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
Yes, he has such dynamic variation and control over his voice that he controls the loud and the softs and everything in between, and just makes it really interesting. It's different colours that it creates. It produces different colours in a vocal performance that is so nice. And he does this extremely well. Now we're moving into the ooh section in his really nice resonant head voice.
Look like nothing's
Soon.
gonna change. Everything still remains the same.
No, it was actually just before that. I'd written the ooh in the wrong spot. But anyway.
Look like nothing's gonna change.
Yeah, see there. He went. That's probably what I meant here. I didn't write the right thing. He's moved in the bridge. He's into a bit of head voice here. He uses a lot of mixed voice. Bit of head voice, bit of chest voice in parts of this song too, which is really interesting, and just it adds to the timbre that makes up his voice. But so pleasant and so beautiful.
Wasting time. Look like nothing's gonna change. Everything still remains the same.
And it's so quasi-spoken there. I love it. Everything remains the same. And it's almost, he's singing it, but he's almost speaking it. And it's just really nice. Just go back here. I love when he points to this soul concert sensation of 1967. There's him, Sam and Dave, possibly Sam Cooke, not sure. But yeah, I just love that. That's really interesting.
Like nothing's gonna change. Everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I'll remain the same. Listen, sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone. Listen, 2,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. Now I'm just gonna sit at the dock of a bay.
Yes, and he added a bit of vibrato on the word home there, I'd noted. That was really a nice touch as well. Not overdone, just a bit there. Beautiful.
Just to make this dock my home. Now I'm
There.
just gonna sit at the dock of a bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh, I'm sitting on the dock of a bay, wasting time.
Yeah, there was that brief ooh where he went into his head voice there. That was really nice.
Tide roll away. Ooh,
There.
I'm sitting on the dock of a bay, wasting time.
Yes, that ooh was probably the same phrase in the previous section that I was actually meaning before. But yes, he goes into his head, into his head voice there on the oohs, and then comes back down into his I would call it a mixed voice there. Now the whistle section. And a lovely fade out from the pleasant whistle section at the end. That just ends the whimsical nature of this particular song. You know, you're on the dock of the bay. And what a great song. And as I said before, it's a classic. It's one of those classics from yesteryear. Otis Redding, only 26 years old when he died in the unfortunate plane crash. A lot of famous artists, musicians have died in plane crashes. There are many. Jim Croce, Buddy Holly, and Otis Redding. There are many others too. John Denver. Oh, there's too many to remember. So sad. What a great song though. I hope you enjoyed it. See you on the next one.